Coming up next on Arizona Horizon, we'll hear from state Republican leaders on our weekly legislative update and find out why members of a South American tribe are the heart-healthiest people in the world. That's next on Arizona Horizon.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Arizona PBS, members of your PBS station. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to Arizona Horizon. I'm Ted Simons. Each week we invite state legislative leaders to join us in studio for an update on issues before the legislature. We rotate by party. Last week we welcomed Democratic leaders, and this week it's the Republicans' turn. Joining us tonight, Senate President Steve Yarborough and Speaker of the House, J.D. Mesnard. Good to have you both here. Thanks for joining us. Let's get started with something that hasn't quite happened yet, but everyone's kind of keeping an eye on it. The idea of the Department of Child Safety needing a warrant before removing a child from a troubled home. This could be proposed when?
Well, it's a potential House bill, so...
Yeah, we've, the majority leader in the House, and there's been some interest with the majority whip as well, are working through what this would look like. Obviously, it's trying to be sensitive to we have Fourth Amendment rights and in terms of folks invading your home and your privacy, but also we have the duty to protect kids who are in harm's way. So this is something that's going to be explored. We're still working out what it looks like in anticipation really of much more comprehensive legislation next year. But if we put something forward, it'll either be a striker or even a brand new bill, and we'll have to work through how that works.
So basically, we're talking about Department of Child Safety needing a judge's warrant in order to remove a child from a house, but there are exceptions, correct?
Right. So I mean, you don't want to leave a child in serious danger while you're trying to go get the paperwork, right? So there are exceptions for extreme situations, but otherwise, it would require a court order to allow for someone to go into the home to remove a child. Because the flip side, what we're dealing with now is you take the child, and then it's potentially days if something is, as it works through the process, to get the child back in the home. And when a child's removed, it's traumatic. And also people's homes are being invaded, if you want to use that word. But so this is trying to figure out what the right balance is between keeping children safe and protecting privacy.
What are your thoughts on this?
Well, it's going to be a fairly complicated process. There are some other states that have tried to do this, but the challenge is, if you think about it, it's sort of like trying to get a search warrant. You're going to have a judicial officer, I would think, on call 24/7. Right. You're going to have a caseworker who's going to be able to describe the circumstances and then persuade the judicial officer to give a telephonic warrant to do the removal. So there's going to be a lot of moving parts to the process, but as the Speaker indicates, it's an important decision that has to be made, and we would like to have as many appropriate safeguards as possible.
And yet the pendulum always, it seems like it swings back and forth as far as taking children from homes, leaving children with parents as long as possible. There is always a concern that more kids will wind up staying in unsafe homes. How do you work the balance?
I don't know, Ted, how you'd necessarily do that. I think we're really striving to find how the process should best be managed, and this seems to be an option that might be wise.
Yeah.
Why a state law, though, instead of just departmental policy?
Well, there's been some talk about that as well, but I think you're seeing some reaction from the public, certain egregious situations that have happened, and wondering what safeguards are in effect. So I think this is about rebuilding the trust in the public that the government isn't violating some pretty fundamental rights, parenting rights, privacy rights. And as the President said, it's no easy task. Really, that striking the right balance is an unending endeavor.
Yeah, it's the same question to you, though. I mean, we're talking about a law here as opposed to just telling DCS, hey, either knock this off or let's go in this direction. Why go the statute route?
I think the reason that we would contemplate the possibility of going the statute route is that we really do want to define this as very best we possibly can, because there are serious concerns on both sides of the issue, because you don't want to leave a child in a home either where there is real danger. And so if this process moves forward, there's going to have to be an exigent circumstances provision so that even if you can't get the warrant, you can still make that decision.
And that exigent circumstance,
Right.
I mean, that again
That's the
is,
exception.
you got to figure out what those are.
Right. Yeah. So what we envision for this session is at least starting to put something out there to allow the department to explore what this looks like, allow the courts to explore what this looks like. There's a question of resources and what sort of resources, because as the president outlined, you're talking about judges being on hand 24/7, and then again hoping that next session there's perhaps more comprehensive legislation.
In general, you've seen a lot of support for this?
I think so. I think, I mean, there's each person maybe has their take on what this is supposed to look like, but I think this is a good step forward. We're still crafting the details, so the devil is in the details, of course, but yeah, I think it's a good step.
The Senate side, you hearing support for this?
Generally, conceptually, but as the Speaker notes, everybody is always looking to see exactly how you're going to accomplish the objective.
The House budget plan has been released, and it's different than the governor's plan and idea, oddly enough. Let's talk about, in general, let's just start with new initiatives. Governor wants $125 million in new initiatives. The House apparently is looking at $30 million. Why the disconnect?
So to clarify a couple of things, the House budget folks, the Appropriations Committee, put together what we call a framework to try to put some parameters of what we're working within as we expand the conversation to the entire House chamber. And some of the governor's wishes overlap with the with the House's, and so it's there in the framework itself. And then, yes, beyond those items, there's $125 million the governor has an ongoing request, and there's what the approach process put together is a $30 million capacity. I'm sure the governor will disagree with that, and we'll have those conversations about what the proper size of the box is. There's a lot of overlap between the governor and the legislature. I think education as a priority is an overlap between us. Obviously, we got to figure out how to make all the pieces fit together.
We see the House budget plan. We can't talk about the Senate's plan because you haven't released that yet. Are you going to release some sort of outline?
Well, eventually there will be a communication that will have that information. We spent about 4 hours today in 2 small groups going through actually a line-by-line conversation about what we are contemplating putting forward. But we're still working on that, and once we feel like we've got at least partway to a consensus, then we'll communicate that.
You know, before the show, I was asking you both for ideas on when the legislature could adjourn, and you know, the idea. It sounds as though you both think that things could move along swimmingly, and by the end of the month or midway through next month. I'm looking at the House plan for university spending. I'm not seeing anything close to what the governor is planning on, and he seems, the office at least seems, somewhat strong in their determination to get this bonding ability for universities up and operational.
So the governor has made clear that's one of his top priorities in his budget, and there are members in the legislature that are interested in some version of that, whether it's the TPT version or another bonding version. There's some interest, and then there's going to be some opposition as well to bonding, as there always has been in the past. So that's going to be a very delicate negotiation between the governor and the House and the Senate, I suspect. And from what I hear, I think the Senate sentiments are similar. There's always every budget is a challenge in one way or another, but I think there is interest in additional resources to the universities, and so again, to that extent, there is overlap in our priorities.
$15 million in one-time spending here, as far as, if I'm correct with the House version.
That's correct.
As opposed to the governor, $30 million ongoing to help with a $1 billion bonding capacity. That bonding capacity, the governor's office is speaking pretty strongly about this.
Yes, the Speaker and I have sat with the governor personally, and he's been very forthright and indicated how strongly he feels about that particular item in the budget. I spent last week, we did these small groups, and we devoted the entire meeting to the issue of bonding. And the challenge, of course, becomes the fact that there are members who think it's a great idea, and there are members who feel very strongly that it is not a wise thing to do. And so it's that challenge of how do you get 16 of them to support something. The TPT set-aside really has virtually no traction, maybe a couple of members in my caucus.
TPT set-aside is?
is taking the transaction privilege tax funding that is generated on the university campuses and setting it aside directly to the universities, in this case to use for bonding.
And yet cities and towns not happy about this. And yet Arizona State University is one of the few major universities that still pays a tax. So is there wiggle room in there?
So it's absolutely true that they're one of the few, but that's because we have a different system than many. So other states have a sales tax. We refer to it as a sales tax, but it's actually something quite different. It's a TPT, a transaction privilege tax, and they don't work the same. But because we operate under a TPT, that's why the universities and other public entities don't keep their what we call sales tax with their TPT. So it's true on the one hand, but we also have a different system on the other. And there's concern by some that once you go down the road, as noble as the intent might be, that others will have noble intents for their use and wanting to keep it. And so this opens a door that hasn't been opened before.
And cities and towns wind up with nothing coming in the coffers.
Well, at least of that portion, because
yes, right.
$7 million from them, $30 million from the state, because we share it with the cities and counties, so they are impacted.
Could this take us longer than the projected end that you see?
I'm still hoping for the end of April. I believe the governor's office has heard where the legislature is at, and so we just got to find the common ground, and that's just always part of the process.
Before we go, a live birth bill was signed by the governor, obviously passed the legislature. All available means, doctors, all available means, medical skills used to promote, preserve, and maintain the life of a fetus embryo. Doctors were not, many doctors, not happy about this because it takes away the option, they say, of grieving parents, grieving family members to do what they think is best in the final moments of a life. Why did you pass this, and why is this important for Arizona to have in law?
I think it's very important because we're no longer really talking about an abortion. We're talking about a live birth of a baby who is entitled to be treated as a human being and to have all reasonable means applied to try to preserve the life of that baby. This is going to be a rare occurrence, but it is something that when it does occur, it is just fundamentally offensive to think that a living baby with the opportunity for life is allowed to just lie there and pass away.
And yet doctors say that it's offensive to them to subject a severely deformed baby to extraordinary measures that will not save a life. And the doctor thinks might be better comforted, certainly the parents might be better comforted without all these extraordinary, do they have a point there?
Well, I will always concede that it's a point, but it is a point that is overcome by the significance of trying to preserve the life of that baby. And the bill was amended over in the House to address some of those concerns, and we went along with that amendment.
Yeah, the amendment that we adopted in the House makes it clear that if the baby is going to die, if it's inevitable, and I think over the next 3 months it has no chance to survive, then it removes some of those requirements that all efforts be given to try to save it. But the president's right. At the end of the day, if somebody, and it is a somebody, it's a person, is dying, we do think it's the role of the state to step in and say, we are going to do our best to save its life.
But again, doctors who are there would see the same situation, and they would say, 3 months, hard to say, pre-diagnosis, hard to say, easy to say. This is a situation in which it might be better to comfort what exists and to comfort the families that exist, because that's a extraordinarily difficult situation. And if they want that, is it up to the government to say, no, you can't have that?
Well, we're also talking about a person that's dying, and I don't want to sound unsympathetic. I'm sure it is as difficult a situation as it can get. But at the end of the day, many of us feel like if there's a chance to save its life, a credible, reasonable chance to save somebody's life, we're going to try. And a lot of these situations, I mean, they even came about, if someone has gone in to have an abortion, it's hard for some of us to grasp this whole idea of abortion and then compassion in the situation where, they've ended up in the situation where the baby's going to die. I know it's a tough situation, and you could make cases on both sides. At the end of the day, I and many of my colleagues felt like trying to save the life is the higher priority.
And you felt this was necessary
We
to be a
did.
law.
We clearly did, because there was some evidence that demonstrated that babies had indeed, who had the opportunity to survive, had been left there to simply die. And like I say, many of us just find that offensive.
All right, we'll have to stop you right there. Good to have you both here. Thank you for joining us. We do appreciate it. And you are watching Arizona Horizon. Coming up, hear why one South American tribe is so heart healthy.
Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood was the first program that made all children feel safe, cared for, and valued.
I like you just the way you are.
PBS is committed to ensuring his legacy lives on.
Hi, neighbor!
With programs that open a world of possibilities for every child. Give to your PBS station so together we can create a neighborhood where every child belongs.
Researchers have found that the hearts of a South American tribe are the healthiest hearts ever examined. This despite troubling cholesterol levels, a diet heavy in meat, and high levels of inflammation. Professor Ben Trumbull of ASU School of Human Evolution and Social Change is co-director of the study that looked at why this tribe is so heart healthy. Good to have you. Welcome to Arizona Horizon.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
All right, this is, pronounce the name for me?
The Chimane.
Chimane. They are where in South America?
They're in the lowlands of Bolivia. So Bolivia's a landlocked country in the Amazon region of South America.
Healthiest hearts ever examined?
Yeah. So, we've thought for a long time that populations that have low levels of cholesterol, that have good blood pressure, lots of physical activity, would have healthy hearts, but we've never actually been able to really study that before. So this is the first study to actually show for a fact that that's true.
Lowest levels of plaque in coronary arteries ever seen?
Mm-hmm. So for heart attacks and cardiovascular disease in general are the #1 killer in America. And what happens is you get these plaque formations in the arteries in your heart, and then that plaque breaks off and forms a blood clot, and then you have a heart attack.
Okay, but they're not having these heart attacks. At least they're not having the coronary plaque. They have a diet that's heavy in meat, correct?
Correct.
Is this lean meat?
Yeah, so if you or I want meat, we can get in our car and we can drive to a fast food restaurant and, we can collect, 2,000 calories of hamburger in just a couple of minutes. But for the Chimane, they have to go out and hunt meat. So they'll go out and it'll take, 8 hours of hunting. The average hunt's more than 8 hours, covers more than 11 miles, and they only have about a 60% chance of success.
So basically what you're saying is they work hard, and working hard like that might ameliorate the factors of eating meat, lean meat nonetheless.
Yeah, so we can't really say for sure whether it's diet, is it physical activity, is it immune activation, but definitely the combination of those three makes this group really healthy. And
we have some photos of these folks. They look very happy. They look active. They're hunting. They're fishing. They're cooking. They're living life down there. And again, I understand that they're exercising, and that's good. But their levels of cholesterol. I mean, what's supposed to be low is high, and what's supposed to be high is low. That's not good.
Yeah. So we've always thought that high-density lipoproteins, HDL, the good cholesterol, that if you have low levels of that you're at a higher risk of cardiovascular disease. And that's not what we found here. But I think the more important thing is actually about the inflammation. So in the United States, inflammation is a leading risk factor for heart disease.
Yes.
But among the Chimane, more than half of this group has very high levels of inflammation.
All right, so we got bad cholesterol levels. We got a diet rich in meat. They do exercise, we'll give them that much. But you got high inflammation levels, and yet your research, an 80-year-old from this tribe has the heart of a 50-year-old American. So what is going on here?
Well, I think part of it, and especially in relation to the inflammation, is that the inflammation that we have in the U.S., if I had high inflammatory markers, it would probably be because of obesity or smoking, these sterile, self-created factors. Whereas for the Tsimane, if they have high levels of inflammation, it's from parasites or pathogens.
So, and we're watching them now. There's a lot of water down there, a lot of fishing. I mean, they're splashing. They've got a monkey eating a banana there. I mean, there is a lot of opportunity for these pathogens. What, the pathogens get in the gut and what, they take all the bad stuff away?
Yeah, so actually lots of intestinal parasites, they're actually eating the fats either out of our intestines or they're pulling them out of our bloodstream through our intestines. And so while we generally think of parasites as being, you know, a really bad thing and something to avoid, there's good evidence that throughout most of the human past, there were really high levels of parasites.
And these parasites are kind of doing the dirty work there, getting rid of stuff that their bodies don't have to get rid of, correct?
That is part of it.
Okay, but you still got a parasite in you. I mean, that can't, do they feel well?
So certainly we see very high rates of anemia, and most of the population by U.S. standards would be highly parasitized and need treatment immediately. But I think part of it is that what we think of as normal hasn't been normal for most of the human past. So 99% of the human past, we were in small bands of hunter-gatherers in a variety of different environments. And just in the last 200 years, we've moved into these big cities, and that really changes things.
So this is really, I'm trying to wrap my head around this, because it sounds as if, let's say I'm walking around, I'm parasitic. I just got parasites all over the place, and they're doing all the dirty work, and I'm not feeling all that well. But if I'm 80 years old and I got the heart of a 50-year-old, that's not doing too poorly. Mm-hmm. I mean, is this a new normal?
I think this was the normal, and that we're now in an odd situation. We're kind of the outliers, really, in these cities just in the last 200 years that have popped up. That's not been normal for humans for the last 125,000 years.
So this is really fascinating here. The tribe life expectancy, what are we looking at overall for them?
So if you live to the age of 15, the modal age at death is 70. So the average person, as long as they survive childhood, the average age of death is 70.
And that compares with?
In the U.S., it's around 84.
But we have better medical care, and when things do go wrong, we have better access. Mm-hmm. How did you know, when this tribe was discovered, or when people found this tribe, how long before they realized these folks seem to be in reasonably good heart health?
So we've been working with the Tsimane, our project. It's a large group project at a number of different institutions. We've been working with them since about 2002. And it was pretty obvious early on, as soon as we started doing any sort of medical tests, especially looking at blood pressure. Yes. So we're seeing amazing blood pressures that aren't increasing very much at all with age.
So now we're back, now I got blood pressure that's working out real. I mean, I'm going to go out and find some parasites. I mean, it sounds like that's the way to go.
Well, I'm not suggesting that. I don't think that we can point to any single one factor. We can't say it's just diet or just physical activity or just parasites. I wish there was a silver bullet, but I think it's going to be a combination of the three. So
exercise, the diet, and again, this is a diet that's, what kind of vegetables? Rich in vegetables?
So about 72% of their calories come from carbohydrates. But these are all carbohydrates that they grow. So these are like tubers, corn, rice, manioc root.
So the kind of stuff that dissolves slowly in the blood system.
Yeah.
As opposed to the quick stuff that hits your pancreas and makes it go crazy.
Mm-hmm. And they tend to also be higher in fiber.
Okay, so they do have a lot of that kind of diet, but again, they eat that meat. I saw it smoking there on the spit. I mean, they eat it, don't they?
Yeah, a good proportion of their diet. About the same amount of protein from their diet comes from meat as comes from meat in our diet. But the meat that we eat tends to be higher in fat.
What do they tell researchers about their health? Are they like us, always complaining about something? I got an ache here, I got a pain there?
Well, if you live a really active lifestyle and you spend your time out clearing forests and hunting all day and things like that, you have a lot of aches and pains.
Yes.
And so, certainly they have lots of health impacts, and we see high rates of tuberculosis and pneumonia.
So, what do we take from this study? I mean, look at these people. They seem happy. They seem like regular folks. I mean, what do we take from this?
Well, I think it's just that the environment that we live in now is so different from the environment that humans lived in for most of human history. And we really need to understand the vast variation in populations to understand what health has been like in the past and what we can do in the future.
So, does it say anything, though, about cholesterol? Does it say anything about cholesterol, blood pressure, inflammation?
So it may be that if you have high levels of inflammation, but it comes from parasites or pathogens, that's really different than the inflammation that we get from obesity.
Oh, interesting. Any of these folks overweight?
Very, very low percentage are overweight.
So that could be a major factor there.
Yeah, so less than 10% of their daily activity is sedentary. They get more than 17,000 steps per day, where the average American gets around 6,000.
And even the older folks, too.
Mm-hmm. Because if you have to, if you can't go to the grocery store, then you need to be out hunting, you need to be out growing crops, you need to be out fishing if you want to eat.
Grandma and Grandpa got to go find food too.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, fascinating study. This is really interesting. It makes you try and confuse us, but it's interesting as well. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And Thursday on Arizona Horizon, a local police union talks about manpower shortages at the Phoenix Police Department, and we'll hear about the planned exploration of a nearby asteroid. It's at 5:30 and 10 on the next Arizona Horizon. That is it for now. I'm Ted Simons. Thank you so much for joining us. You have a great evening.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Arizona PBS, members of your PBS station. Thank you.